This week's best MMA bets, we're talking UFC Vegas 60. We're going to talk about locks, dogs, props, and parlays. Make sure you guys smash that like button if you're new. Subscribe to the channel. Turn those post notifications on and make sure to share the video as well. And we are going to start it off with the locks for this UFC card. Now, lock number one, I'm actually going to pick I'm going to call this my favorite lock, especially value-wise. It's got to be Chidi Njokuani over a really dangerous Gregory Rodriguez. I like the chances a lot for Chidi here. I like the kickboxing from range. I like the length advantage. I like the fact that Chidi's capable to grapple too. And I mean, I don't think he's going to out-grapple Rodriguez, but I think if he is put on the ground, he can find ways up. Rodriguez is a powerhouse, and Njokuani more precision-style striker with finishing ability for sure. The line is close. You're looking at around minus 110, best value for Njokuani. Rodriguez upwards of plus 110. Very, very close money on Chidi Njokuani money line. I like that attack money line Njokuani a ton. I feel like he might get the knockout, plus 205 for it. It's an okay prop. I like money line more so. I'm very confident Chidi gets the win. Could he do it by a decision? He definitely could. But knockout is kind of where I'm leaning, especially with Rodriguez, with the style that he's going to come to fight. He's going to go out and look to get that KO win. Chidi, I also think, is the best guy Gregory has ever faced. We'll go Njokuani by knockout. The money line is my favorite, though, in this fight. Next of the locks, heavyweights. I love Tanner Boser as a lock over Rodrigo Nascimento. I really think he's levels above as far as skill set goes. Nascimento's a bit of a stiff and decent enough striker, but nothing jumps off the page, whereas Boser has good technical strikes, good straight punches, good low kicks, good movement. He's a very quick heavyweight. I like Boser's chances, maybe even to knock Nascimento out, but I wouldn't be shocked if Boser won by a decision. I like moneyline Boser. Boser by KO is plus 170. Let's see. If it went the full three, Boser by decision plus 350. I feel like Nascimento doesn't really have much of a shot striking. I really think he's going to get clean clocked with shots. I kind of lean that KO at plus 170. Could see it going the distance, but big heavyweights, it takes one. And I think Nascimento's chin is there to be touched up by somebody like Tanner Boser. And he's been out for a long time too, and Boser's been fighting good competition and doing fairly well. I love Tanner Boser in this spot. I think maybe the line is a little too close even for this matchup. I don't think Nascimento is all that level, especially Boser level. Next of the locks is what I'm going to call an uglier lock. Not as far as the line. It's Pat Sabatini at minus 178. Damon Jackson, slight dog, plus 164. It's just the fact that I see this as a competitive fight where both guys will have moments. I think Sabatini will have a lot more moments. I see Pat Sabatini as a more powerful striker. I see him having a physical strength edge. The grappling is competitive, but I lean Sabatini. But don't be shocked if Damon Jackson does get him down. I think Sabatini can get up. Explosiveness favors Sabatini. I like him to win in this fight by a competitive decision. Damon Jackson is not an easy out. And most of the times when you see him lose, he's getting caught up with big punches. Sabatini does have some power, but he's not necessarily a KO artist. Known more for the ground game. I see it as competitive in the grappling. I think Sabatini wins a hard-fought decision. Sabatini by decision is plus 140, so that is the expected method of victory. For Sabatini KO TKO, it's plus 1,000. I think it's low likelihood that he knocks out Damon Jackson, but never say never. Still, I'd rather money line it, Pat Sabatini. But it's a very game fight. It's going to be competitive. If you're betting it, you might be nervous when you're watching that fight when Damon Jackson has a few moments. Next of the locks, this one is an ugly line. It's very wide, but I would call it as close to maybe a sure thing as you can get. Joe Pyfer, Alan Amedovski, minus 425 for Pyfer. Amedovski plus 360. Under 1.5, minus 160. I don't think Joe Pyfer lets Amedovski get out the first round. I think he could hurt him on the feet. I think he can choke him out on the floor. Amedovski just seems like kind of a bit of an opponent for Pyfer to build off of coming into the UFC. I mean, he was a hyped guy in the Contender Series, lost the first go with Stultzfus due to injury, comes back, wins, and now jumping into the UFC, they give him the W that I think he deserves here. Amedovski's not necessarily UFC level from what most of us have seen. Pyfer by sub is kind of where I'm leaning here. That's plus 275. I don't think that's a bad line. And I think it's possible, but it's risky because Pyfer could also knock him out. That's just plus 100, and you're not doing inside distance at minus 225, or are you? Because he's probably going to get it done inside the distance. This might be one of the few times that a minus 225 is appetizing because I don't see Amedovski surviving. Money line ultimately would be the best go, but at minus 425, I don't see that many people wanting to throw down. There's not a ton of value on Pyfer, but matchup-wise, I think he has this one in the bag. Let's jump to the dog section. I'm excited about some of these dogs. Make sure to smash the like button. We'll talk about each of them. Aspen Ladd and Sarah McMahon. Now, it is a very competitive fight. I like the Sarah McMahon side, but some red flags, or at least yellow flags to talk about, is McMahon known for getting caught in subs as she's winning fights. Also, the fact that she is in her 40s. Overall, she's got the better wrestling than Aspen Ladd. Problem is, Aspen Ladd, as awkward as she is striking, I see her being kind of competitive with McMahon, who's not known for the stand-up, but McMahon should land takedowns. I'm going to pick McMahon via decision. For that line, it is plus 185. Let's see Ladd by sub. Plus 800 Ladd by sub. The fact that McMahon has been submitted a fair amount of times, even though I have her winning this bout, Ladd by sub at plus 800, I see people jumping on that as a Hail Mary line, and it could cash. But ultimately, I like the underdog, but McMahon's close money. It's not a fantastic dog play as far as value, but I think McMahon goes out there and gets the win. As long as she's not caught in something, which we've seen happen a fair amount throughout her UFC run. Next of the dogs, this one is a very fun fight. It's Anthony Hernandez and Marc-Andre Barriault. Barriault around plus 153, Hernandez minus 163. I like Barriault's chances because he's an overall decently well-rounded guy who does kind of everything pretty well, right? He's well-rounded. What do we call him? Generalist style. Decent kickboxing game, capable ground game, hard guy to finish. He does have a bad loss to Chidi, but it was a one-punch knockout. Anthony Hernandez, a bit more explosive, but I think Barriault is a bit more consistent throughout the fight. I'll pick Barriault to take it on the cards in what's going to be a competitive matchup. Barriault to win by decision is plus 525. That might be a sneaky prop. And then the over 2.5 at just plus 101. I see this fight going long here. I don't know about Anthony Hernandez finishing Barriault. If there was a finish, I guess you would lean it. It's Hernandez by sub. I'll give you that line. It is plus 310, but I think Barriault's here for the full 3, and I think that Barriault goes out there and gets it done on the cards as an underdog. Next underdog. This one is a bit risky. It's Mariah Agapova at plus 128, Jillian Robertson minus 141. Now, I know a lot of people have fallen off the Agapova hype train, but let's note this. Robertson was submitted by Priscilla Cachoeira. She doesn't do well with really aggressive strikers. Now, Agapova's ground game is a bit suspect as far as her offensive wrestling to some, right? But Marina Moroz is dangerous. I don't think Jillian Robertson is as good physically strong. I don't think she's as technically good in the clinch situations necessarily as a Moroz, but she's a grinding style grappler. She's gotten caught in fights. She's gotten submitted in fights. Definitely Agapova is the scrappier fighter of the two. Agapova by sub might be a bit of a Hail Mary. But at plus 1,400, you see Robertson losing a fair amount of fights by submission, even though she is known as the grappler. Not a terrible sneak line in at plus 1,400. It's a very light Hail Mary, but the line is so good that it's hard to resist here. I'll pick Agapova. I am riding her by sub. Plus 128 money line. It's not a great money line bet, but it is plus money. That sub is sneaky, and that might be a good Hail Mary for you guys. The next of the underdogs, this one is going to be between Trevin Giles and Luis Kosei. Now, I officially am picking Giles. Kosei is a bit of a risky play due to the fact that he's been out for a while. You look at the loss, it was against Sasha Politnikov, who's no longer in the UFC. Kosei came into the UFC with a lot of hype. Both of the brothers did. They've underwhelmed. They've underperformed. Has he made the improvements in the timeout? I'm going to lean towards he's made improvements in the gas tank for sure. I think he should be a bit more patient in this fight. Can he wrestle with Giles? I say he's the better wrestler for certain. It's just, can he consistently land takedowns? Is he going to get frustrated and trying to strike? Is he going wild striking and he gets caught? I pick Koshke as an underdog bet value-wise, but the official prediction is Trevin Giles to win the fight, especially chance for KO if Koshke gets reckless. I will say Koshke by decision at plus 550 could happen. Plus 186 dog play is not a terrible idea, but it's a lot of ifs. It's more of a value attack as opposed to it's an absolute that this dog comes through, because it's not a prediction. It's a pick betting wise as far as dog attacks, but not necessarily my favorite. Koshke still worth mentioning, live against Trevin Giles nonetheless. Next one. This one is between Mota and Van Camp. I like Mota's skill set. I know some people are giving him flack and saying he's overrated. He's not that good. I do think he's pretty decent. Problem is, I don't want to call him chinny, but he's got a good amount of knockout losses. But I believe the last 3 losses are all first-round KOs. Van Camp, an aggressive striker who badly hurt Andre Fiallo up a weight class. It wouldn't be a terrible idea to touch on Van Camp. He's plus 200 money line. Mota's minus 175. But the KO prop is really where I would lean you. Plus 700 for Cameron Van Camp by KO. I think that's kind of one of those sniper props that might be worth the Hail Mary touch. Because if Van Camp is to win, I see him knocking Mota out. And Mota, known for getting KO. Now, he's also known for being a dangerous striker in his own right, and he definitely has finishing ability. And if they get into a war, he could touch up Van Camp and put him out as well. But money line bet-wise, I'd go Van Camp. Prop attack, I'd go Van Camp. I just wouldn't want to throw the money at Mota, especially coming off that tough loss to Miller. I want to give him one more fight to see what he brings to the table, where we really know the level inside of the UFC. Van Camp, I think, is live here. But the pick, prediction-wise, is Mota. Value bet side, Cameron Van Camp, underdog, and the prop, to me, is the way to go. That Hail Mary KO prop could come through for sure. Now, I want to jump to the prop/value bet section. In this section, fights that I'm looking at that are sneaky value lines. Andre Fili over Algeo at minus 121. I would say only money line it. I don't really love the prop side of it. The reason I want to mention it, though, because Andre Fili is an ever so slight favorite in a fight where I think he matches up decently well against a grinder like Algeo. Fili comes from that team alpha male camp. He can wrestle his ass off. Yes, common opponents. Joe Anderson Brito knocks out Fili in one punch. Algeo wins by a decision, but the MMA math does not matter here. Extremely different styles between the two. I think Fili can go out there and get the win over Bill Algeo here. Now, some other potential lines. I think Daniel Zellhuber, he's a high confidence pick. I didn't want to include him in the lock section because he's new to the octagon. This is a huge moment in his UFC debut, fighting Trey Ogden. Ogden fought Jordan Levitt. He didn't look great, but he did fight okay. How is Daniel Zellhuber going to deal with the takedowns? I think most likely he looks really good fighting against Trey Ogden and gets the win. But at this wide of a line, minus 275, as far as a UFC debut, I kind of want to stay off of it and just enjoy the action as it plays out. But I'm not really feeling Ogden as an underdog either in that spot. As far as Basharat, Javid Basharat, a pick that I'm feeling good about at minus 160. He should win, but he's fighting a game Tony Gravely. I didn't want to touch Gravely as an underdog attack, but Javid could be somebody to touch maybe even after the weigh-ins later in the week. I'm feeling good about Basharat winning, and I don't think the scales are going to have a huge factor on this fight, but Tony Gravely is game. He's got 30 pro fights. He's got 7 losses out of them. I feel like Tony Gravely's a guy that gets slept down often, and he has that X factor of knockout power. Now, Basharat should go out there and touch up Tony Gravely. I actually am picking Basharat by KO. The line for Basharat by knockout, it's plus 450. I think that could be a decent sniper prop. Basharat to win by a decision is possible. That's at plus 370, but I really am leaning that knockout for Basharat, especially with Gravely's style, and we've seen him caught by guys who fight fairly well from distance in the past. And that's why I'm really feeling Basharat with a fair amount of confidence. But, Gravely still has the X factor of wrestling and knockout power, and we haven't seen Basharat fight a Tony Gravely yet. This is a big test for him. He should win. His brother just won on Contender Series. I think both guys have a ton of skills and future UFC success incoming, certainly, but Gravely's not an easy out for anyone. Next fight we look at is Loma Lukeboom and Denise Gomez. I wouldn't really touch this line here. Lukeboom, she's good. I think she wins a decision, but at minus 200, I don't want to play it. She's still 6-3 as a pro. Gomez still a solid prospect coming in. She's plus 210 as the dog. I do see this fight going a bit long. The over 2.5, it is minus 265, but I think that ends up coming through. And to talk a little bit, I guess, of the main event, I have to bring this up. I think Corey Sandhagen gets the win over Yadong, but it's a very dangerous matchup with Yadong because Song needs one big punch. Sandhagen should be able to manage distance, and I'm actually picking to win a decision. Yadong is not going to be easy to put away. He's a freak athlete. He's super young. Minus 180 for Sandhagen. Not a terrible play, and I think Sandhagen has a good shot of winning. I'm feeling like this fight goes the full 5 rounds, but we haven't seen Song in that spot in the UFC. Over 4.5 rounds, minus 150. Note that. Sandhagen to win via decision, plus 130. I don't like it. Maybe you touch Sandhagen money line. I don't think he's a bad pick. I do think he gets it done. Song is game. Sandhagen coming off losses, Song riding the momentum. I still think Sandhagen could be a decent money line bet, though. I will say it's not a bad value line, and it might look far wider than the lines have it here. But a lot of respect by the bookies here for Song, and he's game. I mean, he's got some good skills. I like the knockout power in the hands. Potential is definitely there with Song, and I think he has a bright future in the UFC. But Sandhagen now, I think, is the better fighter. That is the prop/value side of things. Let's jump to the parlays. And if you guys haven't, smash the hell out of that like button. The parlay that I love here, and I'd call this the $100 parlay. It's cheaty. And then you run that with Tanner Bozier, and you run it. Where's our guy at? Where's Amadovsky? There it is. Joe Pyfer. Yeah, it's not Amadovsky. Don't worry, guys. Plus 257. Chidi and Jaquani, Tanner Bozier, Joe Pyfer. I think at plus 257, this is a great line. I think these 3 do come through. I'm very confident on all of them getting the win. If I was to add more, you'd add the sweaty Pat Sabatini play. It brings you to plus 456. How much crazier do you want to go? What else do you want to add in the line? I kind of like this 4 lock play. That's the locks for the week. I don't know about the dogs I'd want to add in. I'd more Hail Mary if I'm going towards the dog. And if I am going to do that, maybe I play a line where I'm touching Cameron Van Camp, and it brings me to plus 1,400. Risky play, but I think could come through. I'd have this more as your Hail Mary bet. I'd say the 3-fighter play is better, or you could even just play Chidi and Bozier if you don't want to touch Pyfer, but come on. Pyfer's going to beat Amadovsky. I would be cautious with going too crazy with the parlays, as I tell you guys always, but I do think there's some solid bets to be made. If you want to go nuts, you add Feely also, plus 2,554, the ultimate Hail Mary of the week. I feel like these are solid plays. Zell Huber is somebody that a lot of people believe in. People would definitely want to add him in. Plus 3,424 if you had him in there. This is real Hail Mary zone. And I don't want to go too nuts with the Hail Mary. If you had Sandhagen at the top, plus 3,914. Let me reset it real quick, because I am curious to have a line with the main event in, because it's always great to play the main event. Chidi, Sandhagen, Pyfer, and Bozier. Plus 440. That's another solid play. Even though Sandhagen, not necessarily lock pick, still very confident pick and should win here against very game Song Yadong. Some solid ways to bet this week. I do think there's some money to be made, especially attacking a few dogs, touching up some props, maybe a Hail Mary parlay, but I think that lock 3-fighter parlay is the way to go. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of this week's Best MMA Bets. Much love to everybody watching. Make sure to smash that like button. If you're new, subscribe. Turn those post notifications on and make sure to share the video as well. Let me know in the comments what you guys think of the picks, the locks, the dogs, the props, the parlays. If you have any that maybe I didn't mention that you're feeling, let me know. If you don't have anything to say, but you just enjoy the content, as always, drop a W in the chat. Thank you all so much for watching. Much love, my people, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace, everyone.